Bueno, buenas tardes para todos y para todas. Los invitamos a participar del taller Design Thinking a través del link de Zoom que está a través de nuestros canales de YouTube. Este taller lo dictará el señor David Morrillo de Full Sail University. Entonces, en breve vamos a comenzar. Los invitamos a ingresar a través de este link. Señor David Morrillo de Full Sail University. Entonces, en breve vamos a comenzar. Los invitamos a ingresar a través de este link.
Buenas tardes, Alejandro. Yo creo que ya podemos empezar. Ya estamos en vivo.
Hola, muy buenas tardes para todos. Muchas gracias a quienes se están conectando a este workshop especial que estamos haciendo dentro de la programación de Ciudad Global, Medellín Vive USA, un esfuerzo conjunto entre el Instituto Tecnológico de Antioquia, el Instituto Tecnológico de Medellín, el Colombo Americano de Medellín, y hoy estamos muy contentos de contar también con la participación de Full Sail University, Stefan Agudelo como representante para Latinoamérica de la universidad, una universidad además enfocada en entretenimiento, artes digitales y tecnología, y tener la presencia de David, que nos va a hablar, David Morrillo, que nos va a hablar sobre Design Thinking. Es para nosotros un honor de verdad tener este workshop, y una de las cosas que quiero decirles en este momento a quienes nos estén viendo a través de la transmisión en YouTube es que para este workshop los queremos invitar. Ahí van a ver en el chat de la transmisión por YouTube un link que estamos poniendo al Zoom. Nos interesa muchísimo que se puedan conectar a este Zoom donde estamos en este momento, porque este workshop de Design Thinking precisamente requiere muchísima participación y nos gustaría que estuvieran aquí participando activamente al workshop. Así que si están viendo por ahí en este momento el link de ingreso a Zoom, los estamos invitando especialmente a que ingresen a ese link y que hagan parte pues activa de este Design Thinking. David, thanks a lot for being here. We're really honored to have you. Thanks a lot to Full Sail to allow us to have you in this space. We know that it's like 6:30 right there in Florida, so it's past time, but thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. We have just some people connected to this workshop. We're gonna talk about design thinking, and thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for being here, for take this time with us to discuss this amazing and interesting topic.
No problem.
So let me check if Paula, ¿quieres dar algunas palabras antes de que iniciemos el workshop, o le puedo decir a David que pueda arrancar con él? Paula?
Yo creo que podemos arrancar. David, you can go ahead and start. Thanks for being here. I'm Stephanie Agudelo from Full Sail, and I will be here assisting everything about the workshop, and anything you will need about Full Sail University, I will be here. Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, David.
No problem. Well, it is an incredible honor to be here tonight at 6:30 my time, 5:30 your time. It's either do this or help my daughters with homework. And so I'm excited to be here. And with that being said, my name is Dave Morrillo, and I am a strategic relationship manager at Full Sail University, which is a business development role. One of the things that it would be very important, if at all possible, just to reiterate what has been shared, if at all possible, it'd be really great to see your faces. It is an amazing opportunity to connect with people all over the world. And I at least want to see some faces beyond the names on the screen. But I understand that it can be a scary proposition. I know what I look like on Zoom. I don't know what anyone else looks like on Zoom. It doesn't seem like a fun idea, but we're in this together. And so if any of you are teachers or any of you are students, it would be really helpful, administrators, to see your face. Because as we move forward, one of the things that's really important is that this is a really interactive workshop. And so what I would ask you to do is to please find a piece of paper and also something to write with. Because as we go through the experience, we're going to be doing some exercises together that I hope and pray we'd be able to kind of work through together, in spite of the fact that nobody has put their face on the screen yet. But with that being said, there is a function in Zoom that allows you to raise your hand and to show an emoji, and it's down at the bottom of your screen. And I would just ask that if you've ever heard of design thinking before, could you put some type of notification that shows me that you have, or you can type into the chat. And I know that Stephanie and Alejandro are going to be looking at the chat. So if you've heard design thinking before, you've seen design thinking before, would you mind just letting me know somehow that you have?
David, one thing I want to say is about the participation. If the people can participate in Spanish if they want, and we want to do the translation if we need it. So it's okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Para la gente que nos está escuchando, si, como también es importante la participación y sabemos que a veces puede ser un poco complicado, si quieren preguntar algo, hacer alguna pregunta en español, no hay ningún problema. También estamos un poco para acá. En caso, David entiende perfectamente el español, así que eso también es una cosa importante para que sepan y un poco animarlos a participar. Y también un poco lo que decía David al principio, si pueden encender sus cámaras, estaría bastante bien, porque un poco este taller requiere también un contacto para que él no se sienta también dando el taller aquí solo, así que es como...
No me quiero sentir solo. Hablo suficiente español para defenderme, pero no suficiente para hacer esta tarea. So, perdóname, traté mucho, pero me pongo demasiado nervioso, so voy a hablar en inglés. So with that being said, I'll just jump into the workshop. Any training that you ever sit with me, you're going to see a picture of my family. And the reason why that's important to me is that no matter what we're learning, no matter what we're teaching, no matter what business we're utilizing or doing, products or services, is always important to remember why you do the things that you do. And for me, a critical reason that I do the things that I do, that I'm here at 6:30 at night to do this workshop around design thinking for a group of people in another country, is because I believe that in a very small way, this is going to make the world a little bit better for these ladies that are in this picture. And so for me, I want to share with you my family. These are the Morrillo family. The little one is Esther. She is 7 years old. The one in the middle is my wife, Diana. And the one on the side there is Emma, and she's 8 years old. Yes, you heard it right. If you're not into math, 8 and 7 are really close. What's even more close is 16 months. I would never recommend that. They're 16 months apart. And we didn't read the manual, and we should have read more books and gone for more walks. But here we are, two girls, 7 and 8. And so that's my family, who I love very much. And to me, is the reason that I do a lot of the things that I do around education, around making my time available to serve other people, because I want to make the world just a little bit better for them than it was for me. And I feel like these type of moments make that possible. And so I'm honored and grateful to be here. One of the things that I'm deeply passionate about is design thinking, which is really using empathy, compassion, and thinking about the people that you're building products and services for. And if you're in education, you have to think about lesson plans. You have to think about how students are learning. If you're a student, how you're retaining information and engaged in class. And so for me, design thinking is a wonderful framework and model for developing products and services, and also amazing at developing lesson plans. And so as we continue to move forward, this is where it's going to get infinitely complex, because if I ask a question like, what is brand? Or what you're going to see there is that I tried my best to translate the questions into Spanish, but I use Google Translate. So please forgive me, because I don't know how to write in Spanish, even though I can somewhat read, and I can only hope that I came close to the right question. So Cesar Zapata Molina, you just jumped in and you got a picture. So you're my new hero. Do you mind answering the question, what is a brand? I'm going to give you a couple of seconds. A guy with a picture like that should be courageous. You should be strong. No? All right. Paula? Anyone? Okay. So what a brand is a brand's a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or organization. And this definition comes from a gentleman named Marty Neumeier. One of my passions is branding. And so he's one of the thought leaders in that space. So I look to his books and to his research as something that I use in my own business outside of what I do. And so it's a person's gut feeling and mark because of the fact that brands aren't defined by the companies or markets. Brands are defined by you and I, individuals. And it's a gut feeling because we're emotional, we're intuitive people. And so one of the things that I normally ask is when you look at this type of mark, when you look at this type of organization, it automatically solicits a thought for you. It automatically creates a sense of something. And if we were participating in real time, one of the things I would ask you is what comes to mind when you think of this? Does anyone of the 17 people that are in here that are not related to Full Sail or the organizations in Colombia want to participate?
Can I do it?
No, it's okay. Yeah, well, go ahead.
Okay. I in my mind, it's expensive.
Yeah.
But delicious.
How do you feel about that, Alejandro?
I don't know. When I think in the space, you know, I think in the lighting and the space more than the coffee, you know, for me, it's more like they give you a safe space if you want, also expensive, but I think in the place more than the coffee because I don't really like the coffee so much.
Well, I would imagine I would imagine that there it's a weird thing to have a Starbucks in the South America where there's such amazing coffee that comes from South America. This is an interesting, because I had to do a lot of research on this to find out what were brands that were really relevant to South America, and particularly in Colombia. And Éxito came up as one of the brands. And I'm sure that when you think of this brand, something kind of comes in your feelings and your gut around what it represents. This one's one that's particularly in the United States. I do believe that they have them in South America, but they have multiple different brands that are owned by Walmart. And so what I did as an effort to find out how aligned these companies are with what we say they are is that I went onto their website and I pulled up what's called the About Us section. And what the About Us section indicates is what the company thinks that it's representing to the world. Now, again, in spite of the fact that there wasn't any very limited participation in responding to these brands, I'm really positive that you guys and gals had a response to it. And so what I want to share with you is the About Us. Starbucks spends a lot of money to pay a writer to say that this is what they think they're offering the world. And if we just go based off of what Stephanie and Alejandro said, we'll soon find out that it was actually very different than what they said, which is that every day we go to work hoping to do two things: share great coffee with our friends and help make the world a better place. Now, just on the two that participated, we know that the only word that they had in common was coffee. Outside of that, they were very different things, right? And in fact, Alejandro doesn't even like the coffee. He just goes there for the space, free Wi-Fi, and a comfortable place to work while smelling bad coffee, apparently. And so, and if Starbucks is watching this, I like your coffee. I'm just making a point. You got to figure it out. Éxito. It says that through innovation, digital transformation, experiences, and sustainability, we respond to a competitive environment and contribute to the development of places where we have a presence. That's a lot of words for a supermarket, for a place that you can go buy some stuff. Like, I will never remember that. And so when you think about that, who in their mind, outside of the people that own it, think about that statement when they go into the supermarket, right? This is my favorite. It is my favorite. I'm biased towards this one. It is a really short, concise statement, but it says we feature a great selection of high quality merchandise. If you live in the United States, you would laugh at that very first statement because no one associates Walmart with high quality merchandise, friendly service, and of course, everyday low prices. The last part is the one that maybe everyone agrees with, which is everyday low prices. But there are entire websites and videos dedicated to what happens at Walmart late at night. And it's not any of those statements. It's really crazy. And so when you think about a brand, it is not what you say it is. It is what they say it is. And what I mean by that is that as educators, as students, as people, we think that we're going out there and we're projecting a particular kind of thing. And it might be that our friends, families, coworkers, businesses, associates might think something completely different of us. Like what we just learned about the companies, where the companies spent thousands of dollars to have somebody write a statement that if we just think about it in the context of this group of 22 people and whoever else is watching, we're very off from what we would say these brands are. So the question becomes, as an educator, as a student, as someone that is developing a business or a service, what do you want it said of your company and your products, right? And so one of the things that I use on a regular basis is something called design thinking. It goes by another name like human-centered design, people-centered design. No matter what you call it, the whole point is that it's about designing for the end user, the person that's going to use your products, services. If you're a teacher, for your students. If you're a student, you're thinking about your teacher and your classmates. So design thinking is a framework that allows you to consider empathy, people. Instead of just putting a product or service out there, you're taking your time to figure out how people are going to use this. And so before we begin, I always think about this story, which is kind of a silly story, but there's a shoe company that sends out two shoe salesmen to a remote village in Africa. And one of the shoe salesmen texts back to the company in desperation, and he says, the situation is desperate. Nobody's wearing shoes here, right? And then the other shoe salesman says, man, this is a glorious opportunity. Nobody is wearing shoes here. And the slight difference and variation in what's going on here with the text messages is ultimately perspective, the way that we look at the world, because what we think is that we see the world as it is, but the reality is that we see the world through a map that we create. And that map is shaped by the environment that we grew up in, the family that we grew up in, the movies we watch, the books we read, the songs we listen to, the friends we hang out with. So if I give you a map of Orlando, Florida, where Full Sail University is, and I tell you to go to Columbia and find me a store on that map, you're never going to find it because you're using the wrong framework. And so what design thinking allows us to do is to look outside of the way that we look at the world, to try to serve the people around us. And so one of the things that I would like to do, and I'm just going to trust that this is happening because of the participation. And that's fine. I completely understand it if you don't want to participate. But if you have a paper and something to write with, please draw these circles on your paper for me in the same pattern that you see it. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to do that.
Tomen un papel, los que quieran participar de esta actividad, tomen un papel para que participen en esta actividad que es súper chévere, dibujen lo que les está diciendo David, cualquier pregunta que tengan, recuerden que la pueden también hacer en el chat y con gusto les vamos a ayudar con cualquier duda que tengan.
I thought you quit on me, Alejandro. I thought you quit. I thought you quit on me, Alejandro. You just walked away. I was scared. Okay. Oh, we had somebody show her face. Hey. Hi. So here's what we're going to do. Sonia, thank you so much for the courage it takes to show your face. I'm even going to say it in Spanish. Gracias, gracias, gracias. So what we're going to do is an exercise. What I want you to do is connect all 9 dots only using 4 straight lines. Once you put your writing device on the paper, you can't take it off. 4 straight lines connect all 9 dots. Okay, I'm going to give you a timer and you're going to start. La instrucciones están en la pantalla y si no oyeron claro lo que dije. Tienes 30 segundos. $15. Okay. So, did anyone figure it out?
Not me.
No?
No.
No one figured it out. Sonia? Ooh, okay. Alejandro, you got it? I don't even know what you did there. That's a whole nother exercise. All right. Everyone look at the screen and I'm going to show you the answer. Does everyone see that? You know what happened, Sonia? Que tú hiciste esquina donde no hay esquina.
Yes, I know.
In your mind, you saw 4 corners where there were no corners. And that is really the power of the way that we look at the world. We put in parameters where there's white space and there is no parameters. And it's based on our experience, it's based on how we see the world. And so to us, ultimately, the world looks like this, but actually the world is like this. And so one of the things that I would ask is, when you think about these toys, would you pay, and it's a rhetorical question, nobody has to answer at this point, but a rhetorical question. So would you pay $4 billion for these toys? No, right? No, that's silly. And yet, George Lucas was paid $4 billion by Disney for something that's called Star Wars. Do you know what Star Wars is? Disney said that Star Wars to them was worth $4 billion. 4 billones. Billones. Dólares americano. That's a lot of money. And you know what they paid for? They paid for make-up imagination, fake worlds and people and languages and stories of planets that don't exist, right? Someone else would have not paid the $4 billion, but Disney saw the opportunity based on the fact that they didn't see the corners. They see outside the corners. Would you pay $32 billion for a waffle iron? The answer is no. Nobody in their right mind will pay that, right? I like waffles. Don't I look like I eat waffles? I eat a lot of waffles. I like them. They're delicious. But the thing is that when you see that and I see that, we don't see what this other gentleman saw. Do you know the company Nike? So this gentleman, Bill Bowerman, and Phil Knight launched a company called Nike. Bill Bowerman is a coach for runners, track, and he always was looking for ways for his athletes to get faster. And so one day while he's having breakfast, he's looking at his wife's waffling iron. He looks at the sneaker and he thinks to himself, if I put the waffle iron on the sneaker, that it'll create a grip that'll give my athletes more ability to run faster. You know what that creates? $32 billion. $32 billion. That's what that created. And so it's important for us that when we're thinking about design thinking, that we have a beginner's mindset, that we are aware that there are no corners, okay? That we have a map of how we look at the world. And so in order to have a beginner's mindset, what you need to make sure you do is that when you have an idea, don't judge the idea. Oftentimes, think about it. Oftentimes, and honestly, that's probably why a lot of people aren't showing their face right now. They're judging their idea. They're judging their ability to contribute to this workshop. Before you even have an opportunity to see what it is, you've disqualified yourself by judging what the experience is going to be like. And it's the same way with design thinking. You have to have this beginner's mindset. And so then you have this inherent curiosity where you question everything, because I just learned that I don't see the world as it is. I see the world the way that I want to see it, and that I've been trained to see it. And so I have to maintain a healthy curiosity. And what that then allows me to do is to see the patterns in the world. Are there things that are happening in common with all of those? If you just look at the two illustrations that I shared with you, those were really out of the box ideas that were worth billions of dollars. And when I think about what's inside of you, I wonder how many billion-dollar ideas are on this Zoom call right now, right? And so the other part of having a beginner's mindset is that you really listen. Not listen so that you can talk, not listen so that you can share your idea next. You'd really listen to hear what people are saying, okay? And so with that being said, design thinking has basically three elements to it that if you're doing it, it needs to kind of fit in the sweet spot there in the middle. And that is, excuse me, I'm sorry. Is it desirable? Does somebody want what you're offering? Whether it be a lesson plan, a product, or service, does anybody want it? Is it humanly desirable? And then is it viable? Is there a market for it? Can you sell it? Can you offer it? Will people respond to it? And do you have all the resources technologically to pull it off, to make it happen? And so with design thinking, there are multiple ways that you can do it, but I try to do it in the simplest way for this workshop, which is really 3 steps. And the 3 steps are inspiration, ideation, and implementation. And I'll go through each of those one by one. Before we even get into really the nuts and bolts of design thinking, we have to do something about this word, which is really important. This is foundational to design thinking. 1 is maintain a beginner's mindset where your mind is open. And 2, remember that you're a human being creating for other human beings. So you need empathy. Does that make sense? You can blink twice. Yep, good. So I'm going to share a video with you. I hope you figure it. I hope you get it. I hope it translates well. It's in English, but I think it's a really powerful video if you take a moment to listen to it. So I'm going to play that, and then we'll connect on the other side. Sound clear? Can you hear it?
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no. You want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with "at least." Yeah. And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
What did you think of that?
I love the video.
It's great. Great.
Sonia, any thoughts?
Mi Spanish.
Claro.
Es como, me impresiona, es como ponernos realmente, entender realmente al otro, ponernos como en los zapatos del otro. Es la empatía, como yo lo entiendo, ¿cierto?
Sí.
Okay.
Gracias. What about Ciudad Global Pro? That's the name you have on your screen. Did you like the video?
Well, we think that the video is great because the people also, we are walking around people, and we're traveling about many things and new things for this year, for example. And the things that really connect us are the empathy, but the real empathy, you know, knowing and thinking like the other people, feeling like the other people, be around with the other people, not only like, oh, hello, how are you? No, give it a hug. Sit and come on, let's talk. What happened with you? So many things many things that are going on right now, but we have the power of save people, of save persons, about just talking with them, and that is the real power of love.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That's especially in this world with COVID and everything that's changing, it's important that we have empathy, right? Because things are different now. If any of you are teachers, you understand that school has changed, the way that students are engaging has changed. If you have businesses, things have changed. And if like some people are losing jobs, all sorts of stuff that's happening that people don't understand. And if we don't have empathy when we're creating, then what's the point? Because people aren't going to respond anyway. And so step one of design thinking is inspiration. And that means that I'm going to use the empathy, my open mind, the beginner's mindset, and my heart, empathy, to now go and listen and learn about the people that I'm going to serve. And so one of the things that you have to do going out is that you have to create a challenge. And really that comes in the form of a question. I'm doing an illustration here for this purpose, and it's just how do we use virtual reality technology? But most questions in design thinking start with the question of the positive, which is how might we? ¿Cómo podemos cambiar, blah, 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 or arreglar, blah, 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 or, you know, influence, whatever. So how might we is an important question in design thinking because you're solving a problem, right? You're solving a problem for people. And so the first thing that you want to do is research, and that comes in the form of interviews. And who do you want to interview? The first thing that you want to do is interview the people that you're creating for. If you're serving students, interview students. If you're serving communities, interview the community, interview the people that you're trying to serve. And really, who do you want to learn from? Not the people that are the last ones to get any type of technology or product. You don't want to get the ones that are standing in line for hours for the new iPhone. You want to get the people in the middle, the people that are open to change, but they move a little bit slow, but they're open to it. And so you want to learn from them. The other people that you want to learn from are experts. So there are people that are doing the thing that you want to do. They're experts in it. They created the technology, they created the lesson, they created the methodology, whatever. You want to go and interview those people and find out, what do they know? The other thing that you want to do is immerse yourself in the experience. If you're creating something, immerse yourself, use it. And really, in an interesting way, you're doing that right now by being on this design thinking workshop, because you're immersing yourself, you're participating in it. And then the last thing is inspiration. A lot of times we have inspiration from outside of the industry that we're in. So if you're in education, how are they using this technology in the medical field? If you're doing a business, how are other industries using this technology or service or whatever the case may be? Because you may find that you have inspiration there that you can bring into your project. And so it's important to do that. And then you create a map and you go do it, which then leads us to step 2, which is ideation. And this is where you take all of the research that you did all of these interviews, you did all of these conversations with experts, and you've immersed yourself in it, and you went outside of industry to learn. So now you have all of this information, you have to synthesize it and put it into usable data. And so what you want to do is then brainstorm and create ideas around the services. And in this phase is where you would want to prototype. And that's, remember that the illustration that I'm using is virtual reality. So that's why this looks silly, like he just put something on his face, is because the illustration is you want to prototype. Did he put the button in the right place? Does it fit comfortably? You want to let people experiment with it before you go out and sell it. And the reason being is that you want to save as much time and as much money as possible by getting the feedback. If you remember the companies that we looked at earlier, Exito and Starbucks and Walmart, what they paid somebody to say about their company is very different than what we're feeling about them, because they stopped listening. So in design thinking, you continue to listen and you continue to invite people to participate. So once you do the prototype, then step 3 is you did all of your research, you asked all the questions, you did your interviews, you used your head, open mind, you used your heart, empathy, you interviewed, you did an amazing job of synthesizing it, brainstorming, putting it all together, and now is implementation. Now here's the first thing, is that you never stop iterating. You put a product out. How many like glazed donuts? They're delicious, delicious donuts, right? Do you see that every illustration, I just noticed this, Stephanie, every illustration I have is about food? I wonder why. I just noticed this. It was a subconscious thing. Everyone likes donuts, but you have to keep iterating, because donuts with chocolate and sprinkles is even better for some people. And so the whole point is that you're never done. It seems counterintuitive because you want to move on to other projects, but you can move on to other projects. Just keep your ear listening to what you launched, okay? Because we can always make our products better. So I want to do an exercise with you, and I need you to grab another piece of paper. I hope we can pull this off. At least the 3 of us. Yeah, look at you. Thank you. You're awesome over there. So what we're going to do is we're going to pretend that David Morrillo from Orlando has never eaten toast, and you're going to teach me how to make toast. Tostada. You like that, right? With butter and some coffee or some chocolate or whatever. Like toast. We're going to eat toast. And you're going to teach me how to make it, because I don't know how to make it. So here's the exercise. I want you to use your paper to draw a picture of how to make toast. You can't use any words, sin palabras, no palabras, nada más dibujo. And you're going to show me each step, cada paso que tengo que coger para comer una tostada, porque nunca la he comido en mi vida. Y no la sé hacer. I hope that makes sense. I don't even know. But like I said, I'm nervous. Please forgive me. Pero me van a enseñar cómo hacer tostada. So, un dibujo que tiene cada paso que tengo que coger. Okay? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, and then we're almost done, I promise you. I'll put you out of your misery. Tienen 50 segundos. Y tengo mucha alegría que me van a enseñar a cómo hacer tostadas. ¿25 segundos? No more. Okay. So, como nada más puedo ver 4 gente, nada más necesito 2 gente que me enseñen cómo hacer tostada. Sonia, ¿me puede dejar ver el dibujo?
Ay, mi dibujo, yo no sé si lo pueden ver.
Sí. Hazme el favor y explícamelo en lo que me lo está enseñando.
El primero, tengo el paquete de pan. El segundo, sacó una rebanada. El tercero, conecto la tostadora. El cuarto, pongo el pan en la tostadora. En el quinto, estoy mirando el tiempo y ya sale, tengo la tostada.
Gracias. Y en la Ciudad Global Producción, no tengo los nombres. Oh, look at that.
Okay, so we have to go to buy the bread to the supermarket, right? This is the first step, the éxito. Carrefour, no sé. 2, we have the bread and we cut the bread on a small piece. You can see right that.
Yeah.
3, we have the bread. Here cut it on a small piece. 4, this is one piece of the bread. This is the first step. 5, we have the toast and we introduce the piece of the bread on the toast. And 5, we have we introduce the bread, the one piece of the bread, the toast, and that's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's wonderful. I feel a lot better now about making toast. What it's called is there's an experience in design thinking and where you want to design something that's called a journey map. And the journey map shows step by step what the experience is going to be like for the student or the customer or the product and service. And what happens when you look at it visually, right? It was interesting, right, Sonia, to think about, oh, I have to take the bread out the bag and I have to put it in the toaster and I have to think about the time. And you didn't say anything about plugging it into the wall, right? And like, you didn't talk about putting butter or some type, or that you have to go to the supermarket unless you're making the bread. So you have to do every single step in the design thinking process when you're creating a journey map for the experience. And so what that's called in system thinking is each picture that you did is called a node. And each node is connected, when you do the numbers, is connected to what's called a link. Stephanie, that's creepy. You got two Zooms on here?
I'm having problems with the audio.
Oh, okay.
So,
like that scares me. So I told you I get distracted easy, like squirrel. So what ends up happening is you create what's called a system models. Now, that's how we make toast. So I thank you so much for teaching me. I wanted to show you this as an illustration of a journey map. So this is a student, this is an example, this is not my example, but this is an example of what it's like for a student that has dyslexia. Are you familiar with dyslexia? They flip the words backwards and typically see things backwards. So you see on the map here, every step that that student, the teacher, and the parents make. And what that allows you to do is to go into the experience and say, hey, wait a second, the student is struggling because we're missing a step here. And that's what the experience is like. So, Alejandro, we did it. I don't know how, but we did it. We did it. And I gave you 10 minutes to do whatever you want to do. But thank you so much for this opportunity. I know I didn't get to see a lot of your faces. I thank you, Sonia. I thank you, Ciudad Global. I thank you, LAD, for the last minute pop in. I thank you, Stephanie, for the double version of you. But like I thank you for the opportunity to serve you. And I just hope that you're at least listening and got something from it that'll add value to whatever you're doing. So your show, Alejandro.
Thanks a lot to you. Thanks for being here with us. It was amazing. So we're gonna have this Q&A space. Luego decirle a la gente que si alguien quiere aprovechar este momento para hacerle preguntas a David, las podemos hacer en español y pues si tenemos algún lío, lo podemos traducir. Así que este es el momento en que estamos invitando pues, a todo el mundo que quiera hacerle alguna pregunta a David acerca del workshop o algo de las temáticas que hemos visto aquí, pues creo que este es el momento. Pueden activar o bien los micrófonos o nos ponen sus preguntas por aquí, por el chat, y se las estaremos comunicando entonces a David.
David, actually, Patricia and Maria Isabel said thank you. And I wanted to thank you again for your time, for being with us today, and for participating in this event here with us in Medellin. Thank you for your time. And if anyone wants to know about Full Sail University, just let us know and we can help you with that information.
Y repetirles nuevamente que ese sería el momento en que quienes tengan preguntas, pues las pueden hacer, sino para cerrar de una vez el workshop. Sonia, tú tienes una pregunta.
Sí, yo quisiera aprovechar al doctor Morrillo. Muchas gracias por estar acá. Y como yo estoy muy involucrada en el proceso de proyectos y sobre todo de proyectos culturales, he pensado con esto que nosotros diseñamos proyectos suponiendo lo que las personas quieren, pero nunca yo asumo que a las personas les va a gustar que yo traiga un grupo de jazz, ¿cierto? Pero yo no sé cómo podría ser una manera de aplicarlo a nuestros proyectos, porque no tenemos tiempo, en el día a día nosotros no tenemos Yo no sé, creo, Alejo, no tenemos como el tiempo de poner, sale una convocatoria y no tenemos el tiempo de ponernos a investigar a nuestro público qué creen para nosotros formular como un proyecto pensando en nuestro público. No sé qué piensa el doctor Morrillo. No lo escucho.
¿Tú me entiendes en inglés? Okay.
Sí, no hay problema.
See, so I think there's a statement that says we never have time to do it, but we always have time to do it again, right? And so you end up doing it all over again because you have to really, I know it's uncomfortable and it's hard at first, but I promise you that when you start implementing this, it's going to save you time and it's going to save you money. And the public is going to appreciate it so much more because they're going to feel like they're part of the process, that you're listening to them. So if, Sonia, your heart and your organization's heart is to serve the community, then you can't say, hey, I'm going to love you the way that I want to love you, right? That doesn't work in relationship. Does that work in relationship? No, right? Everyone has a different way of expressing that. And so if you're going to make investment of resources, money, time, at planning events, especially in a COVID world, right? You want to take the time to listen. And I know it's hard up front. Now, one of the things that you can do in this world, I personally feel like the best information you get is if you interview people, but you can also do surveys, you know, like email surveys. If you have enough people that respond to those surveys with some questions, that'll help you plan. Hey, should this event be 45 minutes or should it be 20 minutes, right? Should we get a jazz band or should we get a rock band? Like all of these different things, it helps you to be more efficient on the back end. It seems slower up front, but it makes you more efficient in the long run. And once you get used to it, it becomes easier.
Sí, muchas gracias. Cuando hice la pregunta, después me la contesté y dijo, no debo pensar en que no se puede. Sí. Sino que así podemos idear la manera de cómo en ir avanzando mientras hacemos algo, ir mirando cómo captamos la información de nuestros usuarios y la opinión y lo que ellos desean. Es cuestión de una estrategia, yo creo.
How do you, I know this is a silly word, but how do you say grace, Alejandro? Grace.
Gris.
No, grace, como, no, gracias. Tienes que tener un poco de paciencia y amor por tú mismo, porque va a ser un proceso largo. Tú estás aprendiendo y aplicando algo nuevo. So te tiene que dar un poco de espacio para que tú falles, va a fallar y está aprendiendo. So, pero lo más importante es que comience. And so, so en inglés hay una palabra que se dice grace. So give yourself some grace, some space, because it's going to take time. It's gonna take time.
Okay.
How do you say it, Stephanie? Because Alejandro was no use. How do you say grace? Do you know how to say it?
It's gracia, but it's not the same context. We use like that kind of expression is not so used, but it's gracia.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Any other questions or thoughts?
We have some other question from Patricia Restrepo, and she says, I'm gonna read you the question in Spanish, and es, ahora estamos inmersos en la virtualidad debido a la pandemia. ¿Cómo interactuar con los demás para saber sus preferencias y necesidades si estamos comunicándonos por medios digitales?
Surveys. Survey is important. You can email surveys and ask the questions. Now, you have to understand that if you send out a survey and you get about 10 to 15% response, that's fantastic. You're not going to get 100% response. You got to be okay with that. It doesn't make you a failure. It just makes us very, like, for whatever reason, people see an email, they'll open it, they don't. Make your surveys very short. No more than 10 questions. Okay? And have a mixture of multiple choice and open question that they can answer however they're going to answer. But don't make it long. Nobody wants to take the long time answering a survey. And let them know when you send the survey, hey, listen, this is going to help us out incredibly to help serve you. And this is only going to take 5-10 minutes to fill out. Will you fill it out? And you put that in the email when you send it out. And what you'll see, again, if you get 10 to 15% response, you're good.
So Patricia says thanks.
Mm-hmm. El mensaje, there's another message from Sara Arboleda. She said, a video about empathy, very cool, very interesting topics, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
So I got a last question, if you want, David,
yeah.
And it's something related with what Sonia says about the cultural industry, of the cultural environment. And I want to ask you if you have one example of one of, I don't know, maybe a tutor, maybe a museum, maybe some cultural institution who apply this kind of design thinking with their audiences, their public. Some example you can think of this kind of cultural institute. I know we're talking about, I don't know, different business, but there's some example in this cultural area who do that, who apply this kind of knowledge.
So I do a lot of work with nonprofits, like I don't know how to say that in Spanish, but nonprofits are like community service organizations. They're not in business to make profit or make money. They're there to serve the community.
Yeah.
But these nonprofits require fundraising. They have to get people to donate money in order for them to serve the community. Well, now with COVID, you can't have people in a room, right? So over here, the way you do it, which is a really interesting model, is you throw a party, invite really rich people in, tell them why they should give you money, and hopefully you walk out of there with money. You can't do that right now. Nobody's going to do that. So one of the things that we kind of figured out and learned was that people are doing Zoom all the time, right? And so, or some version of this. So one of the organizations, because the donors who have more money, they like having people in their house for dinner, right? And so by listening, change the format of the fundraising by doing a Zoom experience. And for the biggest donors, you send them like a bottle of wine or something, and you have them invite their friends to their house, because then they're having dinner together and they're watching the experience online. And by the way, these people already know that you're going to ask them for money, right? So what you do is you pre-record some of the sessions, or you do it live, like you do a live event. You pre-record some of them, or you do it live, and then you do something interesting that shows them the heart of the organization. You show them what the mission is. But at the end of the day, these people that are participating in the Zoom meeting, they know you're going to ask them for money. So just ask them for the money, right? But it becomes more interactive and more engaging, because then they can get their friends in together in the same house and their family members, and everyone is watching it online. That was one project recently. And I'm actually working on another one right now that's happening on November 7th, I think, that we're doing another one. But it's the same thing. But that came from listening. That came from realizing that this organization has to raise money. It's the only way it survives. It has to raise money. But the people with the money don't want to come to an event. So how do we take the event to the people in a way that makes it fun and engaging, and, you know, kind of makes it silly, because they know you're going to ask them for money. So
and
hopefully
they still want to have this social event aspect of the team.
Correct. Yeah, because that's what it's about, right? It's like oftentimes people with a lot of money want other people to see that they're doing good things, right? And they want to know that they're giving to an organization that is making a difference. That's their number one problem with fundraising, is that every organization is going to the same pocket saying, hey, I need your money. And so if through this way you're able to tell stories and do it differently, it has the same effect, actually in some ways better effect, but you have the same effect as you would if you had a live event. So I hope that makes sense. But that was kind of birthed out of design thinking and listening. And that's a real example in my world.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. That's the kind of thing we need to think about, how to improve the experience in this COVID world, when you can have people in your room or in your theater and wherever you are doing this cultural programming, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, David. So, si nadie más tiene preguntas, creo que con esto podríamos cerrar el workshop, agradeciéndote nuevamente en español. David, agradeciéndote muchísimo por estar aquí con nosotros. Fue un honor, de verdad. Una conversación muy amena. We really enjoyed this conversation, this workshop. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot also to allow us to have you here. And thanks to the organizers for this amazing stuff. Thank you, David. Thanks a lot.
Right. Have a good one. Bye.
Nice to know you.
Thank you, David.
Y bueno, a todos los que están conectados, muchísimas gracias por haber estado en este workshop. Esperamos que haya sido útil, que lo hayan disfrutado. Estaremos haciendo pues, parte de toda esta agenda cultural de Ciudad Global que está preparada para esta semana. Muchísimas gracias por asistir, muchas gracias por participar a todos y nos veremos entonces en los próximos eventos. De nuevo, gracias por estar aquí. Un saludo para todos y nos veremos después.
Agradecemos al señor David Morrillo por su participación en este interesante taller. Así concluimos el segundo día de Ciudad Global Vive USA. Los invitamos a conectarse a partir de las 8 de la mañana en la cátedra Las tres grandes crisis de Estados Unidos, aquí en a partir de las 8 de